this video, we're going to break down the science of getting girls. This video got over 1 million views in 2 months, so let's find out what it's all about.
So you don't get girls. Fear not, I'm here to help. Using the power of science and psychology, I'm going to make you the reincarnated male version of Regina freaking George. Let's begin. Lesson 1. The Scarcity Principle. Psychologist Dr. Robert Cialdini has famously proposed in his book, opportunities seem more valuable to us when their availability is limited. We see this quite often in marketing. It explains why billionaires would rather have a lame, slow car that's a one of one than an insanely fast.
So far, I agree. I definitely think that there's a massive influence of the scarcity factor plays. Dan Bilzerian, in his famous book, The Setup, which I highly recommend if you haven't checked it out, talks about that the best way to get girls isn't knowing like some massive pickup skills, but actually throwing a party where there's 10 girls for every guy, and then the girls are going to be hitting on you because you're very scarce, versus if you go to a club that's the opposite where there's 10 guys for every girl, then it's going to be really, really hard to meet a girl because then you're the one in abundance and they're the ones that are scarce.
Cool car that's in production. And it's also why everyone tells you nice guys finish last, and why most of the time it's true. It's not because girls don't like nice guys, it's because the nice guys make themselves readily available, and jerks don't really care. Subsequently, their availability is limited and they are seen as a more valuable opportunity. But what they don't tell you is you don't have to be a jerk.
I think there's actually a lot more to it than that. I think the biggest reason is jerks tend to be more confident, more assertive, they tend to be more dominant, and they have stronger boundaries. They put up with less shit, and they have that I don't give a fuck vibe. That's what's attractive. I don't know if jerks are necessarily more scarce. I think there's a lot of horny, desperate jerks, right? But because they're more confident, because they have stronger boundaries, that's what makes them attractive.
To be scarce. In fact, a nice guy displaying himself in a way that makes him scarce is so rare that by using Dr. Cialdini's logic of scarcity, it should be 10 times more attractive than your average jerk. So how specifically do you do this? Well, say you see a girl you like at a party, surrounded by dudes trying to rizz her up. You may think you don't stand a chance, but actually you have the best chance. Walk over to her and her swarm of simps, walk past, and while you pass, look at her and say hi in a friendly way. Keep walking, go talk to a friend. Bonus points if that friend is a girl. You saying hi and doing nothing else is essentially hanging a limited edition sign on your neck. You aren't readily available like the boys in our Gremlin gang. You're something that needs to be pursued or lost forever. Lesson 2. The game.
Sure, but the girl's just not going to come to you. I mean, 99 out of 100 times, she's not going to walk over to you when there's 10 guys hitting on her and be like, hey, you said hi to me. The vast majority of the time, the girl will be like, oh, hi, or she might not even notice you, right? So I think you can do that, but you're still going to have to come back 20, 30 minutes later, right? No girl's going to approach you unless it's, of course, you're like someone who's super famous or whatever, because girls typically don't approach at bars or clubs. So what I would recommend you do in a situation like that is probably hang out in the corner. If you have a girl that's with you, then it would be a massive advantage if you use the girl to get in with the other girl, right? But if that's not the case, you hang out in the corner, maybe make a joke and kind of weasel your way in the group and then kind of isolate the girl to the best of your ability. But again, that's kind of advanced game. I would personally probably avoid girls that are surrounded by 10 guys because that's just going to be much harder, much more annoying, and just focus on girls who are by themselves or with female friends.
Loss theory. Building on the scarcity principle, the gain-loss theory of attraction explains more in detail why nice guys might seemingly finish last. A clever study tested this theory by having volunteer college students engage in a series of one-on-one meetings. After the meeting, the volunteer would accidentally overhear the experimenter describe them in one of 4 ways. All positive, all negative, initially negative but becoming positive, or initially positive but becoming negative. When asked later how much they liked the experimenter, volunteers would expectedly like the experimenter when the evaluation was completely positive, but surprisingly, they liked the experimenter even more when the evaluation was initially negative but became positive. The findings support the idea that winning people over who had an initial bad impression is way more rewarding to us than someone who liked us all along. But you need to be careful if you're trying to use this on a girl, because trying to demonstrate that someone has left a bad impression can kind of be hard without being a jerk. A good way to do this subtly is through tone and body language. Also, you need to ensure that once you have decided they've won you over, you convey that clearly. If it's not clear to the girl you've been won over and they just think you don't like them, they won't want to be around you, which is kind of a huge problem and leads us to the next bit.
Yeah, so what he's saying here is true, is basically what you want to do is qualify the girl. You want to be like super interested right away. It's like, hey, oh my God, you're so perfect. A lot of guys do this, right? You want to play it a little cool. Doesn't mean you can't compliment the girl. Doesn't mean you can't be flirty and sexual, right? But you don't want to be coming on her too fast. You want to seem almost a little skeptical, like, hey, I know you're hot, but what else do you have to offer? And that's why you would ask her questions, you would qualify her, and that's going to go a long way.
Lesson 3. Proximity. In lesson 1, I told you need to be scarce, but it's important to understand that you need to be scarce in terms of attention, not proximity. In a study on friendship formation, researchers asked nearly 300 MIT dormitory residents to list their closest friends. The researchers then looked at where the listed friends lived in the dorms. When someone lived one dorm away, there was a 41% likelihood they were listed as a close friend. As the numbers of doors increased, the likelihood decreased.
Yeah, people in college are more likely to be friends with people who live next to them in the dorms, yeah.
So those living 4 doors away only had a 10% likelihood of being listed as a close friend. You need to be physically near the girl you like, but good proximity isn't just mutual geographical location, it's also frequency. For example, you have a better chance with a girl you see 10 minutes every day than you do with a girl that you see for 1 hour every week. If you don't have good proximity, you stand no chance. So in such a case, you need to create good proximity artificially. But you need to be subtle about this. Change your route to class to pass her, join a club she's in, do what you need to do. But please, Please don't be creepy. There's a fine
Please don't do this, okay? Don't change your routine. Don't join a club just for the girl. That's gonna come off very needy, and even if it doesn't come off as needy, it's just kind of low value behavior. You're much better off, you see a cute girl, even if you see her once, just approach her, right? Just walking past the girl for like a month, it's just gonna make you nervous. It's gonna build up a lot of anxiety, and when you finally do make contact with her, because believe me, she's probably not gonna approach you, you're gonna be a little bit apprehensive and nervous about it because you've already spent a lot of time and energy investing in basically, I guess, quote unquote, following her around or changing your routine. You're much better off just doing your thing. You see a cute girl, go up and talk to her, than doing what he's saying here.
line in trying to create proximity and stalking. Do not cross that line. Say you do have good proximity and you've made yourself seem won over. How do you retain her positive
The
feelings
best proximity is when you bring her into her apartment and hide in her bed.
towards you? Lesson 4. The Ben Franklin effect. Ben Franklin's secret to being so loved by everyone he knew was that he asked everyone for tons of favors. You may think asking favors of people will make them dislike you because you're burdening them with something, but quite the opposite is true. A study in 1971 at the University of North Carolina had volunteers give out tests to actors pretending to be other students. Of course, the volunteers thought they were administering the study to other volunteers, but actually they were the subject. The volunteers were told the students would watch as they used sticks to tap out long patterns on wooden cues. The students would then be asked to repeat the pattern. Each volunteer was told to try 2 different methods on 2 different groups. In one group, the volunteers were told to give encouragement when the students got the patterns right. In another separate group, the volunteers were told to insult and criticize the students when they made a mistake. Afterwards, the volunteers filled out a debriefing questionnaire, which included questions about how attractive and likable their students were. Across the board, the students who received the insults were rated as less attractive than the ones who received encouragement.
Yes, people like other people who are positive towards them.
Concluding that when you do something kind to someone else, you like them more. So you need to give the girl you like opportunity to be kind to you. A great way to do this is to ask for little favors. Ask for the time. Drop your pencil in her direction and let her get it for you. Ask if she'll help you with something you're working on. Stupid little...
Also, please don't do this. This is not a good idea. First of all, most of the time it's going to come off super obvious unless you're a great actor, which most guys are not. Second of all, like, you're not going to build sexual tension and attraction by like, hey, I dropped my pencil, can you pick it up? Like, that's not really going to do much in terms of moving the needle forward. So yeah, maybe if you're like, you know, you've gone a few dates with a girl, then this principle can apply. But first meeting a girl, don't do that. Just try to build as much sexual traction as possible. Like, have good eye contact, good body language, flirt with a girl, you know, tease her a little bit, have fun, make her laugh, right? You know, build some sexual tension, and then get her phone number and set up a date, right? Don't fucking drop your pencil or ask her to do little favors for you.
Stuff like this actually works and makes you more attractive as a human. But nothing I've said so far in this video matters at all if you disregard this next, possibly most important truth. Lesson 5. The Discord mod effect. In 1997, a study done by Moranian and Blum came to an interesting conclusion. The 2 researchers surveyed 117 male and female college kids with 76 different photos of the opposite sex. They were asked to rank each photo on their attractiveness and emotional response. The study concluded that the most attractive features were not genetic traits, but instead came down to good posture, noticeable grooming, nice fitting clothing, a seemingly positive attitude, and a healthy weight. Let me repeat that. The most attractive features are not genetic. If you put a little effort in, exercise regularly, keep your chin up, shoulders back, shower daily, wear good clothes, and put a smile on your face, maybe girls won't be repelled by you.
So there's probably an element of truth here, I think, to some extent, also some untruth. I remember when we did a street experiment video, went up to girls, asked them, hey, what's the first thing you notice in a guy? By far, the most number one answer was teeth, and you can check out that street interview if you want, it's on the channel. But yeah, like, girls really seem to focus on a guy's smile and teeth, so I guess that part is important. But yeah, genetic factors also play a humongous role, like height, for example. That is all genetic. Obviously, you know, your face plays a role, the color of your eyes, stuff like that.
You when you walk in a room. You can do everything else right, but if you look like a Discord mod, it doesn't matter, she won't want you. And that brings us to the finale.
But I do agree with this part, right? Like, there's a lot of things you can't control. A lot of people complain like, oh, I'm this height, I'm this ethnicity, right? Right, that's outside your control. But there's a million things within your control. Your fashion is within your control. Your weight, your fitness level is within your control, right? There's a lot of things you can do. You can whiten your teeth. You can even do veneers and make them like look perfect, right? There's a lot of things that are within your control that guys, I think, ignore and just focus on the things they can't control.
Lesson 6. Luck. Believe it or not, it will almost always come down to genetic compatibility. So let's step away from psychology and talk neurobiology. 2 things play a part in ultimately determining long-term attraction, and both have veto power over pretty much everything. The first component is your nose. Your nose detects something called pheromones. These carry physical and genetic information and also activate a physiological or behavioral response if pheromones are compatible. But even if they are, a woman's nose functions a bit differently, because while they do take in pheromones, their noses are also attuned to MHC molecules, which are used to fight disease. Interestingly, in this particular situation,
you should go up to a girl and be like, hey, I like your MHC molecules. They smell so good. Let me sniff you real quick.
Opposites attract. There's a study that had a group of women smell t-shirts that had been worn by different men. The study showed that women almost always prefer the odors of those whose MHC molecules differ from theirs, which makes sense because genetic variation, especially when it comes to immunities, is a huge survival advantage for an offspring. Unfortunately, boys, we don't have that MHC sense, which means to us, we might match up across the board. But if your MHC molecules don't differ from hers, it might be hard for her to be romantically attracted to you. The second and possibly most important component to attraction, the first kiss. First kiss is a huge complex exchange of tactile and chemical cues.
Let me really quickly comment on what he said there with the MHC molecules or whatever the fuck he's talking about. I'm sure there's play a role. It's my first time hearing about that. I've obviously heard of pheromones, right? But I think a lot of that is also over-exaggeration in this video. I know that when I was about 18, 19, 20, when I was going up and talking to girls, for some reason my MHC molecules didn't seem to work for any of them, versus now, it seems the more I learn game, the more I improve my social skills, my MHC molecules seem to improve. Again, I'm not saying these things don't play a role, I'm just saying there's no point overthinking it. It seems like it's something that's outside of your control, like genetics, so I wouldn't even really give this second thought.
Happening through the smell of your breath and the taste of your mouth. This moment is so critical that the majority of women have reported losing their attraction to someone after a bad first kiss. But if things do go well, the nervous system pumps out norepinephrine, activating the fight or flight system. The heart beats fast, the pupils dilate, and energy increases. In this case, fellas, you're in.
So again, I think there's a small element of truth here. Yeah, if you have a really bad kiss, that's gonna fuck up your chance of the girl, it's gonna turn her off. But as long as you don't suck, like I don't want you guys really sweating the first kiss, being there and being nervous, like oh fuck, this is the only chance I get, because you know what that's gonna do? Lower the chance it's gonna be a good kiss. Instead, what I like to do is just not think about it. Have fun, go with the flow, and then when the timing is right, I go in for the kiss. Sometimes the girl will reject you, that can happen too. You just try a little bit later, and most of the time she won't, right? You make out with a girl, and as long as you don't suck at making out, you're probably gonna be okay. But that's not your in after a good makeout. There's been a million girls, well not a million, but there's probably been a shitload of girls that I made out with that I didn't wind up sleeping with. There's a lot of things that happen after the makeout and before sex, right? Or before sex can happen. So again, there's a lot of things that can happen here, so don't count your chickens, as they say, just because you had a good makeout. All right, so all in all, I agree with this video on some things, disagree on others. And I've seen this issue before of nerds trying to use science on how to pick up girls. The problem is they look at studies and come to incorrect conclusions. As we saw in this video, you really need that personal experience to be able to interpret these studies correctly. And if you guys want to learn how to get better at Tinder, check out our free Tinder ebook. Link in description shows you how to get amazing photos, how to pick out those photos, how to write the perfect bio, how to text girls, what to do when a girl flakes, and much, much more. Link in description. Thank you for watching, and until next time.